Hello YouTube. This will be the first in a couple videos of cutting with the Higo, I believe I've been told to pronounce it, Rockstead. And this should be interesting. It's ZDP 189 and it is 66.7 Rockwell. They provide a data sheet with each knife, and I believe the as I pointed out, I have a full video telling everything about this knife. For those of you that haven't seen it, if you want to look back through my other videos, they actually give the Rockwell hardness on the knife, and you can see down here the indent where the machine actually did the testing. And so today what I'd like to do is outline exactly how we're going to do the test with this. In the past, I just got some cardboard, I'd give my ideas on it, and I've been hanging around with Cliff too much, and so I want to try to make it at least a little more scientific and see if we can't try to come up with some more definitive results. So what we're going to do today is just light cutting, just to get an idea of how sharp the knife was delivered. You probably are not going to be able to see this on camera, but hair just flies off. It will split hair, it will shave hair, it will do all of that stuff. It's delivered extremely sharp. Now, the one question that I have with this from the factory is, I don't know if they do this at the factory. I know that the recommended sharpening for this, if you read their literature, and if you ever see the demonstrations that they do, the guy tells you to just take a old piece of denim and stretch it over some wood, affix it to it somehow, and then they use white buffing compound. In my experience, if you're not very careful with how you buff and do it very sparingly, it will, and if you raise the edge too much, it's going to round it, it's going to roll the edge over a little bit, and you're actually going to lose some sharpening. So I've tried something, had no idea how it's going to work, but we're going to see as we dull this knife. I built something this morning that we're going to try on this, and forgive me if this looks bad. I'm trying to do it from behind the camera so I can see what I'm doing, and but I have to reach around the camera on both sides to cut and do all the things that I'm doing. But it just, you know, the phone book thing, sorry, there's no challenge here whatsoever. If I could go find her, I don't know if you could even see the start of that. Let's see if I can, what they call them, the curly cues. One of the problems that I have is I never know what this will look like either until I get it. But right now it's obviously as sharp as it can get. I have some questions about this edge also. It's kind of strange. It looks thick. In other words, the grind. And I apologize, I know this is really hard to see, but it looks like it's thick until you really look at it up close, and then you see that because the grind goes so far back, it really tapers down pretty thin. And I've cut just a little bit with this. I didn't really want to do a lot until I could do the testing because I didn't want to mess it up. But it just really goes through things pretty well. So let's just try a few easy to cut materials today, and then I'll show you what I've built to sharpen this with, and that we're going to try, and why I'm going to try it. And I will run and get a micrometer on the next video, and we will actually look at this. And if we take this, let's see what's going to be the best way. That's perfectly flat, and it bites right there, which you guys can't see at all, can you? How about this way? That's flat right there. So that's not a high angle. I guess it's about, I'm thinking 12, 15 degrees. It's not a high bevel at all. It looks, like I said, it looks deceptively high when you see it. So let's start out before we do our little cutting test here. Let me show you what I made. And that is this. I figure that if a company tells you to do something, they've done a lot of research on it, and they know why. So I'm going to, at least in some respects, do what they told me to do. But rather than white compound, we're going to try something else. So I just took a block of wood. I used contact cement, cut some rubber feet so that it won't slide from an inner tube, and put on the bottom. And then I took some black denim pant material that I had, stretched it over here very tightly, and I happen to have some upholstery tack, so I tacked it in, and then just ran some plain old electrical tape around here on the sides just to keep from snagging my fingers on the tack heads and things like that. Make it look a little bit neater. On the material too, I want to say that if you look at any denim jeans, standard blue jeans, on the outside they're going to have a grooved pattern that runs at an angle. So what I did with this, and this may be really splitting hairs, but I flipped it over so that the inside of the material is facing up, because that's just a straight crosshatch weave. And then what I did, instead of using the white buffing compound, I put 0.05 micron diamond paste on this. Pretty saturated it pretty heavy. I've let it dry for a good long time. And so basically what I've got is an extremely thin material, when in the scheme of things, on a very solid base. Pretty much as hard as it is and as thin as this is, I guess it would be akin to strapping on balsa wood. I don't know, but it's still pretty close to what the manufacturer recommends, just with the medium, the actual sharpening medium being different. So as we eventually dull this thing, we'll try this. I've got just a cardboard tube from paper towel roll. It just falls through that. Now, what I want to do here, it's so easy to cut, but I wanted to get a nice long run here, because I wanted to see if this binds up, if it gets into a cut, and then just the back holds it away from the blade edge. And this bevel evidently is flat enough that it doesn't. It just zips right on through it, and there is just no resistance there at all. Not a problem. I have some paracord, and one thing, paracord's not all that challenging to cut, but one thing, if your knife is not sharp and you push cut paracord like that, the ends will pop out a lot of times, or this top casing will slide back. And in this case, it's effortless to go through it, trivial, as Cliff would say, and it just very, very cleanly goes through it. There's no that nice little crunch. I don't know why that crunch is so satisfying, but everybody I know that does a cut test just loves that sound. And it does very well on that. We'll cut on that wood in a second, but first, oops, sorry there folks, didn't mean to knock you around. I've got a tomato here, and this one was one that part of it was already cut on for lunch, so let's see how this does with now that geometry now is holding that off the blade. There's certainly, if I hold this, there's no effort to cut into this, but it's not going to just slide through, at least not that part of it. Let me knock this off. Let's flip this over and get down in the tomato part and see. I don't know. No, it's not going to do that. This edge is so polished, and that was one of the things I wondered with the white buffing compound, if it would be over buffed. Now let's try a push cut. Yeah, that it will do. And I'm going straight down. I'm trying not to slide it at all forward and back. Let's flip it over again, and let's try some slicing cuts. And for a knife that thick, wow, that is nice. Really does a good job. You can cut that as thin as anyone could slice. Extremely good. I can't, once I go into a slicing cut to break the surface tension, it just falls through it. I'll hold it. I've got 2 fingers on it. Well, whoops, it just, look at that. That's just the weight of the blade. I'm not putting any downward force at all. Just allowing it to slice through. Excuse me 1 second. Let me get rid of this and get some paper towels, clean this edge off. Sorry about that, I should have been better prepared. And let's see that, as I say that, all that cutting was pretty trivial. No change whatsoever. And it's still just an absolute razor blade. So let's see what this geometry does. This is I believe a yellow pine. It is fairly dense, fairly hard stuff. This is, I don't know if any of you have watched my good friend Waco's videos, but he does some feather sticking with very very soft pine. He even says so in his video. And this is not going to penetrate like that or cut like that, believe me. That is pretty good, not bad at all. Let's compare that with one of my best cutters. This is my CKC folder. And pretty close to the same thing. Let's see, let's try here. Other than just when I slip there, I'd say they're just about identical. No real difference in these cuts. That goes about to there. So, and I think this would, if I had something that I could make feather sticks out of, I think this would do well. Do you see, excuse me, how it curls these things out? You can tell that it's a convex edge. Again, pretty close. It may be just a hair, and I don't know how sharp that CKC folder is. That's my everyday user, but I believe the Rockstead, right now at least, cuts just a little bit better. Let's do some slices here. Just kind of run this through the wood. What I'm really wanting to see here is just if I can dull this at all. I can tell that this is a thin metal handle. That was my choice. I actually had the option to buy the thicker one. On hard push cuts like that, you can feel that handle. It's not super uncomfortable, especially with the pocket clip removed, but still it's not as comfortable as a wider handle would be. But I rarely, if ever, sit and cut and cut and cut. 90% of what I do is just several quick cuts and then I'm done. So for that, this is more than adequate, and it is much easier to carry in your pocket. No difference at all. I didn't think there would be. So that was phase one, just to kind of get a little taste for the edge. Now what we're going to do next is set up a series of structured heavier cutting tests, and I think the first one that we're going to do is we'll try about 1,000 cuts in cardboard, and we will, you know, check the edge along the way and see how that goes. I'm not going to try to film 1,000 cuts on, you know, put all that on YouTube. It'd take forever, even with the high, you know, the high speed. So what I will do is just do a bunch of it when we get down to the last couple, you know, after I've got about 800 cuts done. I'll just recap what it's done up to that point, show you the pile, and we'll go for the last 200 cuts, and we'll just keep checking the edge. I have done, you know, normal work with this. If I needed, it's already cut some cardboard. It has cut string, tape, trim boxes for shipping, just whatever I needed to do. And I can't tell any loss in the edge at all. If I do my part, it's just as sharp as it ever was, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to do some experiments with this sharpener on other knives. That I have some that need to be touched up, and we'll video that and see how it works. If this proves not to be a good idea, then I'm going to make up another one of these, and we'll use the white compound on it, because basically what I see these guys do is using these or the white compound ones for a long time. Now I wish I would have show if how they do the primary sharpening if the edge bevel is just wore away to the point where it has to be reprofiled. I know you can send it in. Maybe on this particular knife, because of what it is, I might actually do that. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that the way this is made, that you can go a long time on this before you would ever have to even think of that. So that's about it for this time. We will see what it does and how it works. So take it easy, YouTube, and we'll talk to you later.